started here in just 1 minute. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. And is Evelyn Arroyo here? Evelyn, could you please stand and join us? Evelyn's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The essay. We're going to see you again. Thank you for helping me. All right, so the board took no action in closed session, and there were no expulsions. So I'm going to go over the meeting procedures. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Education for the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District, where the primary focus is education of students of this school district. During this meeting, members of the public will have the opportunity to share information, voice their ideas and concerns regarding matters within the jurisdiction of this public agency. During the board's discussion of each item, there will be a time for you to have the opportunity to speak to that item. If you want to address a topic that is not on the agenda, although it is not mandatory, we would encourage you to please fill out a tan speaker card. Now, I see some of you are speaking to an agenda topic, and that's fine. They could have gone on blue cards, but we'll take the tan, no problem. Don't fill out another one. But if you want to speak on a subject that is not on the agenda, use a tan speaker card, and then you will be called to speak on that topic during communications from the public. If you wish to address a topic that is on the agenda, please use a blue speaker card. And again, it's not mandatory, but it helps us in doing our record keeping. I will call your names in no particular order to speak to the board for no more than 3 minutes, unless otherwise noted. Everybody is looking really good tonight, and that's good because you're going to be on TV, cable channel 28, Wednesday at 7 p.m., and again on Saturday at 9 a.m. So thanks for coming out tonight. And Madam Superintendent, do we have any changes to the agenda tonight?
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, we actually do have one change to the agenda. It's under communications from the public, item 8B, correspondence. Prior to the posting of the public posting of the agenda on Friday, 4 letters addressed to the board had been received prior to that, but our policy is to allow all correspondence received before 4 p.m. the day prior to the board meeting, which would be yesterday, to be included in the agenda tonight. So 2 additional letters were received prior to 4 p.m. yesterday, and those have been provided to you.
Thank you very much. Is that it?
Yes.
All right. So if you'd like to introduce the first item, we've got some wonderful recognitions tonight.
So thank you, Madam President. First, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Mrs. Terry Quessenberry. She is the principal of Sunset Elementary, a new principal to our district this year. We're very happy to have her, and she is going to do the honors of a very special recognition for 2 incredibly hardworking, committed, devoted staff members.
When I think of Disneyland, I think of 2 things.
Can you check your mic?
Push the button.
Push the button and the green light should light.
Hold on. Try it again. Good evening. Is that working? When I think of Disneyland, I think of 2 things. 1, how clean it is, and 2, how it's such a happy place. Patrick and Pastor, our custodians, have made Sunset into Disneyland. Our school is kept extremely clean thanks to the work of these 2 gentlemen. If you come onto school grounds, you immediately notice there's no garbage anywhere on the school grounds. Every day they drive around the campus on their golf cart to make sure the school is impeccable. Trash that's lying around is picked up. Jackets, sweatshirts, leftover basketballs, and anything left from any night events are picked up. These two are extremely hard workers. From the time they arrive at work until they leave, they never stop moving. Every time someone asks them to do something, they do it with a smile and say, "It's no problem." Their positive attitude is reflected throughout the campus. You know that you can count on the two of them to get things done and to make people feel like they are there to support our entire staff. By doing this, they have created a school that is happy and works well together. These two are more than willing to go above and beyond at our school. They've worked hard all summer at other schools, and when they returned, they found many things still needed to be done. Others might have been overwhelmed by this, but not the dynamic duo. Furniture was moved in and out of rooms, the stage was cleaned off, stuff was stored where it needed to be, and many more things happened so that the school could open smoothly. These are countless things that they do each and every day, and they are completely humble about what they do for everyone at our school site. Much of the success at Sunset Elementary, is due to these amazing gentlemen, Patrick and Pastor, which is why we are recognizing them tonight. So on behalf of our school, I'd like to recognize Pastor Parando.
Test, test, test. Test, test.
The other principals I was just sharing with Mrs. Quesenberry, they all try to recruit those gentlemen away, too, so she has to hang on to them.
All right, would you like to introduce the next recognition?
Certainly. I have the honor of recognizing a Vineyard High School Independent Studies student. This is Ani Smith, and I'd like to invite her to come up to the podium here. And she's used to large audiences, so I think we're probably less than what she's used to. This young lady has exceptional talent, and she was part of an amazing performance group, and I know many of us had the opportunity to witness this group in action on America's Got Talent. The talent of the Acro Army group that she is part of brought them to the highest national stage, including Radio City Music Hall, and they took a third place in the national competition with millions of Americans voting. So it's quite exceptional, and it's also a tribute. She's also an exceptional student. She's in the independent study program because with all of her high competition level in many venues, it's very difficult to do that with a traditional high school schedule. And so she manages to juggle both of those things, even though she's an acrobat, not a juggler. She manages to make all those things happen and just be exceptional in everything that she does. Her principal couldn't be here this evening, but she did provide us with a statement, and I do believe that she has other fans in the audience. She has her middle school teacher here, Miss Denise Van Leuven. Is that right? Okay, so that's one of her fans. And then the principal also provided a statement. And essentially what she has said is that Ani Smith began attending Vineyard Middle School. She is a junior. Her reason for attending Vineyard was so that she could compete in acro gymnastics. She spends at least 20 hours or more in the gym each week. In addition, she volunteers time at the animal shelter in Dublin, exercising and socializing pit bulls. Well, that's an accomplishment there. In the spring of this year, she and her partner were approached by America's Got Talent to audition for the program. There, they joined other acro gymnasts from around the country and formed the Acro Army. Ultimately, Acro Army became one of the top 6 finalists and eventually coming into 3rd place. While learning new routines for America's Got Talent performances, she completed her semester of school, and she even started her 2nd trimester. She is an outstanding student. She's maintaining a 4.0 GPA. We are very proud of her accomplishments. And before we give her a big round of applause, we're going to see her and her group in action.
Careful making wishes in a dark, dark
That one was on you right there. Are your parents here? Your mom deserves a round of applause for having to support her. Some of us get nervous when our kids play basketball. I can't even imagine. So great job. Did you want to share anything? We do have a mic there if you want to share anything about your experience, if you want to come around. Ani?
America's Got Talent was an amazing experience, and I'm very thankful I have Vineyard High School to be able to put in the hours I can to accomplish what I have, and I'm very grateful for my mom for being able to support me, and thank you everybody who has supported me over the years. Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, our young lady here who was part of our Pledge of Allegiance is going to be recognized. And I'm going to ask Mrs. Amy Robbins, our Director of Curriculum and Special Projects, to come up and do the honors of introducing this exceptional young lady who's won a state honor.
Good evening, Board President Runyon, Superintendent Bowers, and members of the board. Tonight it's my pleasure to reintroduce to you Evelyn Arroyo. And while she's not flipping in the air, she is using her words to bring recognition and awareness to not only Livermore, but to many of our legislators across the nation. Evelyn applied for and was awarded second place winner in the 2014 Annual Association of Farm Worker Opportunity Programs Migrant and Seasonal Farm Work Children's Essay and Art Contest. Evelyn is a fifth grader at Junction, and part of the award was receiving $200, so that is a gift to her. Yet, I want to tell you a little bit about the competition. As a second place winner, Evelyn's essay will appear in the program's September issue in the Washington Newsline. Her essay will also be compiled along with other selected essays and artwork entries into a booklet to be presented to key members of Congress. And additionally, as I mentioned, she received a prize. The theme of this year's competition or contest was From Our Hands to Your Table, which drew entries depicting the hardship farm workers in America endure to put fruits and vegetables we eat onto our tables daily. Children across the United States, such as Evelyn, was able to submit an essay describing the powerful words, the art of her family's goals and objectives. Her essay will provide local and state and national policymakers with a snapshot of the barriers our migrant children face and their confidence in their futures. So Evelyn has volunteered to read to us our essay, which is in front of you. Please note she submitted it in Spanish, and it is translated into English for us. A little bit has been lost in translation, I hear, yet it's still phenomenal, and we really applaud her for making known the struggles that her family has faced to make us appreciate their dedication to us and supporting us with fruits and vegetables.
I have challenges. I remember the time when I was 4 years old. My mom, my grandma Leonor, and Grandpa Jose Luis would wake up very early. It seemed like it was night when they were preparing their food and their tools for work. My mom carried me in her arms, blanketing me, and my head leaned on her shoulder. This is how she carried me to the car and fastened me to my seat. Later she carried me with covers and did the same with my brothers for us to go. In the nursery, after lunch, we played with toys and did an activity with the teacher. On the playground, the kids and my brothers were playing, but I took care of the plants and watched the little bugs walk. After we were given a meal to eat and went to sleep again, my Aunt Bina picked us up because my mom was working. Among other things, my mom works in melon harvest. She brought me my favorite fruit, the melon. My mom would pack the melons. Each box weighed up to 30 pounds and fit 9, 12, or 15 melons. At night, my mom had cramps on her fingers and they hurt. They swelled in a way that her hand could not make a fist. My mom told me about the dangers of the field. One is the temperature. Sometimes it is up to 105 degrees. You can have heart attacks, headaches, or faint of dehydration. The fertilizer are chemicals that are also dangerous. The most used fertilizer is called sulfur. They help the plants to grow more and produce fruits, beans, and vegetables quicker, but they help the plants to grow more but they hurt the little bugs so that they don't eat the plants. The worst is also that it affects the health of the workers. It causes irritation in the eyes and skin and can get in the lungs. We do not always go together to follow the seasons. Sometimes only my brothers, my mom, and I stay. I cannot see my father when he goes for cotton, alfalfa, or for grapes. He works very hard. My parents inspire me to study hard at school, and I know that I will achieve what I want to. I will study and achieve my dream. I am going to be an engineer. For now, I work making scarves with 2 needles and hook to sell. I have saved for some $200. My new project is to embroider blouses by cross-stitch in order to sell them, and this way to save more. With effort, I will realize my dreams.
So I can see she's not only going to be an engineer, but an entrepreneur and possibly a public speaker. So thank you to Evelyn. Her family is also here this evening, and definitely we would like to recognize her parents for bringing up such a wonderful young lady, as well as for all of their hard work and dedication. So thank you again, and congratulations, Evelyn.
Thank you.
If we could bring Evelyn back, we're going to take a picture, and then we're going to take a picture with the other honorees tonight. If we could have the other honorees come up, please. Yeah, please, and we'll move you to right here, and then we're going to... Great. Thank you very much. I absolutely believe that Evelyn can make her dream. I used to pick strawberries when I was in school, and cucumbers and tulip bulbs. So I admire her. And if you could introduce, oh, we've got student board member. I'll introduce them myself. Colin, looks like you're representing tonight.
Yes.
All right, let's hear it.
Good evening, everyone. As we speak, the Senior Parent Night is taking place from 6 to 7:30. Information on senior activities and expectations by the class advisors and vice principal will be given here. Two separate sessions will be held to provide an overview of the college application process for both four-year and community colleges. Granada High School is holding a PSAT next week on Wednesday, thanks to the Pedrosi Foundation. All sophomores will already be registered for this, but it is suggested that juniors take this as it is the National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. Counselors have been working closely with the FIT classes at Granada to provide individual advisement with four-year course planning and assisting in exploring careers. Throughout October and November, counselors are conducting presentations to 10th grade social science and 11th grade English classes regarding post-high school planning resources. And homecoming week was last week, so have a little news for that. Our overall theme was literary genres, so we had freshmen chose fantasy, sophomores chose children's books, juniors chose comic books, and seniors chose horror. There are a couple things I just would like to point out about this week. Homecoming is a very important tradition at Granada. I think anyone who lives in Livermore probably has heard about our skits that we put on, and we do it for a reason. Our skits really promote synergy amongst the classes, and it really brings the whole school together. And I've never seen that as much as I have this year. With all the positive things that being said on social media about each of the skits, and even in person, the interactions that I see, like people to people, it's just outstanding. Every single skit was so unique and great in its own way. And I encourage you, if you can, next year to go see them at our Carnival Night, which is actually the Thursday of homecoming week. We have our clubs there, we have food trucks, we have all the skits actually get to perform again, so it's really a great family opportunity. And our homecoming game was also last week, and this actually was a TV 30 broadcasted game. It's actually the first of two that we will have at Granada. The dance was really fun, because I did go myself, so it's always a great time to kind of celebrate the whole homecoming tradition together and the crowning of the king and everything. And yes, so in athletics we have both boys and girls cross country are doing outstanding like usual in their league. They're super good. Our girls volleyballs is a young team, but they are fighting through e-balls. Football is struggling, but still competing in the e-ball league. And as I said earlier, the homecoming football game last Friday was actually a TV 30 broadcasted game, the first of two. The second will be October 31st in the evening against Foothill High School. And our boys water polo team won its first game in several years in a Fremont tournament. And this was very exciting because it was the first game that they had won for since 3 to 4 years, and they were all super happy. It's great to see at school. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that brings us to our employee associations. Do we have anyone speaking tonight?
Hi,
Good evening.
I'm Kate Sorrell, and I am the Vice President of the Livermore Education Association. So I want to start off with the high point, which was the Livermore Valley Education Walk for Education, which was just so much fun. We had, for the first time, we sponsored, so we contributed to the event itself monetarily, and then we had, at our table, we did face painting. And we managed to persuade Superintendent Bowers to have her face painted. She was a good sport. She had LVJUSD on her cheekbones. I tried to convince Mr. Vernoy to get his face painted, but maybe next year. We had volunteers from Granada High School, from Livermore High, from Mendenhall, East, and Christensen. And so next year we need to have more chairs because we got a little backed up and we could have done that a little bit better. We've been engaging in site visits. We've gone to 7 sites so far, and we'll have all of our site visits finished by the end of October. And mostly what we've been doing is listening to members and finding out how we can better communicate with them. And so to that end, we've started a group on Facebook, and that allows us to provide information to our members, but it also allows them to provide feedback to us so that it's both a more informal flow of information. One of the things about the site visits is it's given me the opportunity to listen to teachers talk about the work that they do. And they're committed to doing the work necessary to implement Common Core. And one of the things I'm struck with is that elementary teachers are really on the front lines because they're implementing both English language arts and math at the same time. And change is difficult. And it puts us out of our comfort zone, and it takes time to learn to do something well, but the teachers are committed to doing the work in order to get to the place where they need to be so that students can learn the Common Core standards and become really excellent critical thinkers. K-5 conferences start next week, and this year we're reaching out to our new members. We're going to be delivering care packages, and I don't want to give too much information out about it because it's sort of a surprise. But we're going to give it to them to the K-5 teachers during conference week, and it's going to go to 6-8 folks after progress reports and to 9-12 teachers before final exams.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Surreal. Nice. Wonderful. All right, that brings us to communications from the public. And let's see, I have a little blurb on that. Communication from the public is time for the public to comment either in writing or verbally on any item that is not on the agenda. The board may listen to the comment and ask staff clarifying questions, but they will neither discuss nor take action at this meeting on topics that are not on the agenda in accordance with the Brown Act. So if you would like to address a topic that is not on this evening's agenda, now is the time to do so. I'm going to hold these people who want to talk about the charter prep for when that item comes up on the agenda. So if there are people who want to speak on others, I have not received any cards other than charter prep. So if someone wants to speak, now is the time. Okay, and that's going to take us to correspondence then. So Mr. Rogie.
Yes, we have correspondence from 6 people. Our first one is Elizabeth Cantwell of Livermore urges the Board of Superintendent to approve reauthorization of the charter petition for the Livermore Valley Charter School, which offers alternative schooling options for Livermore residents. Laura Moore, Dublin resident, asked the Board and Livermore School District for our continued support of the Livermore Valley Charter Preparatory High School and cites examples specific to her child student that she believes that to reflect a challenging and fun learning environment. Meg Epperly of Livermore believes Livermore is stronger with the choice of that of Livermore Valley Charter Preparatory High School gives parents and high schoolers. She encourages the board and the district to approve the charter petition. Deborah DeSantis, Livermore resident, remarks that the charter high school is a wonderful choice for any and all children in Livermore and urges the board to support the approval of the charter petition. Kenzie Schlag, a Livermore Charter Preparatory High School senior, shares her challenging experiences with the public school system and cites reasons that have made her a successful student who has worked hard to prepare for college. She expressed many thanks to the charter high school for believing in her. And Kara Wong, Dublin resident, shared that she is fortunate that the family found the Livermore Valley Charter Preparatory High School as an alternative school outside their district that is more suitable fit for their freshman daughter. And that is our end of our correspondence.
Thank you, Mr. Rogie. And that brings us to our information discussion items. And to clarify for the public, this is an information and discussion item tonight. And we're going to hear about the Livermore Charter Prep, and we're going to have a formal presentation first, is my understanding, and then we'll hear comments. And I do have 4 comment cards on that. And when people come up and comment, I'm going to give you the opportunity to voice your support or show your support by raising your hand and supporting what the speaker has said. And that way we don't spend all night saying the same thing over and over, and yet everyone gets to contribute. So feel free to comment, but there is a way for you to weigh in as well. So if we could have an introduction of the presentation.
Certainly. Thank you, Madam President. So I will ask Mr. Chris Van Schack, who is our Assistant Superintendent of Administrative Services, and he is also our current Oversight Coordinator and Liaison with LVCS and TVLC, to introduce the agenda item, and this will be prior to the formal opening of a public hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Bowers. As you mentioned, as Ms. Bowers mentioned, tonight is an opportunity for us to hear from the public, the Livermore community, their thoughts regarding the petition submitted by the Livermore Valley Charter Prep High School recently. As we go through, just as a reminder to the board, the process that we will undertake. A little less than a month ago, we received the petition on a very large hand truck from Mr. Dilley. We appreciate that. 4 days later, I presented that to the Board of Education. Tonight, October 7th, is our opportunity to hear from the public. Within 60 days from the original acceptance of the petition, we are to hold a hearing or a meeting in which the Board of Education will make a decision about this charter petition. We have undertaken the task of going through the petition in very great detail to determine whether or not it meets the requirements from the state. And tonight, again, it's our opportunity to hear from the community, their thoughts on the Livermore Valley Charter Prep High School. And we will begin the process by hearing a presentation from the school itself. And I believe tonight Mr. Eric Dilley, who's the principal of the school, has brought a team, or possibly he'll just present by himself, but he's going to spend a little bit of time telling us about this school. So Mr. Dilley and or Mr. Batchelor, whoever would like to present, please step forward.
Good evening, Madam Superintendent and Madam President and members of the board. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present Livermore Valley Charter Preparatory High School's renewal charter petition. I'm Bill Batchelor, CEO of Tri-Valley Learning Corporation, and with me is our principal, Eric Dilley. He's going to walk through the highlights, but I want to just reflect a little bit before we start on, it's amazing, it's already been 6 years since the last time we presented the charter petition for Livermore Valley Charter Preparatory High School. Wonderful opportunity for us to continue to work together in our community is now in front of us. I think it's been a terrific process we've gone through with Livermore Valley Charter Schools oversight process transitioning to the school district, and I'm hopeful that we'll find that same process as effective and seamless as with LVCP as we had with LVCS. Principal Tilley, please walk us through the presentation.
Absolutely. As Mr. Van Schack full well knows, I have a hard time keeping things short, but I will do my level best to keep this 10 minutes for you to respect everybody's time and all of our guests tonight. First, I want to start off by saying I'm new to this community. I moved here about 1 year and 4 months ago, roughly, and this is a fantastic community full of fantastic people. I've had an opportunity to work with the greatest people I've ever had in my professional career. We have great schools in this community, and I'm proud to be a part of one of those great schools. And I just think that need to be said because this is a fantastic community. I think we overlook it, because we live here, but it's awesome. You got to know that. And my family loves living here. I'm a Livermore resident. I don't plan on moving, so. Let's go to the slideshow on the Jumbotron. Okay, so that was our first graduation at Cornerstone Church last June. It was awesome. It was an emotional night, a lot of tears and a lot of sighs and just a lot of great moments. But we'll move on. That is our valedictorian, Paul Epperson. He is a fantastic young man. He is at the University of California, San Diego. He's really, really intelligent, and he's going to do great things in this world. But on the left-hand side, you can see for yourself. I won't read every bullet. Like I said, I'm going to really try, Mr. Van Schack, to keep it under 10 minutes. But I won't read every bullet. But there are benefits to being in a community with charter schools, and I think our parents, our students, will speak to that. We really, 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 really see us as being in tandem, in unison with Granada and Livermore High School. We want to work with those schools to make our community the greatest community it can be. I've already said that, and I mean that. So it's just really great to see all three schools on the same screen like that, and I'll move on to the next one. You can see that we are a smaller school. Okay, we have roughly mid-400s. 5 years ago, we're in our 5th year of existence, and like I said, you can read the bullets for yourself, but we do have a tight-knit community. I think you'll hear that from our students when they speak tonight. It is a special culture. It's a culture that really is refreshing to go to work to every day, and it's a fantastic place to work and a fantastic place to for our teachers to teach the students, and parents really enjoy their time with us as well. We do focus on project-based learning. Basically, I had an opportunity. I'll get off on a side note here. I had an opportunity to go to a Tri-Valley Innovation Conference last year. And I had the opportunity to ask a question to the panel, and I said, okay, so our kids graduate, they get their diploma, they have what they need academically. What do you really need from our students to be successful in your companies? And these were all business leaders, like masters of the universe, right? Guy from Chevron, many people from the Valley, from Silicon Valley, and they said, we need our kids to collaborate with others, to problem solve, and to communicate. And that is what we do with the project-based learning. They're getting the academics, obviously the state standards, the Common Core standards, but we're teaching those intangibles as well. And I hope that our students tonight actually hit on that a little bit. I think they will. And we do have a technology focus. We want to be on the cutting edge of technology. We live in the technology hub of the universe. That's one of the biggest focal. When my wife said we're going to California, I said, cool. Where are we going? San Francisco. Great. They have a lot of good technology. That's the hub of the universe, and our school tries to reflect that. We have the one-to-one technology, the laptop focus. We have some fantastic staff members that really know how to use the stuff in the classroom, and it's really awesome to watch them work and watch the students use it as well. We do offer, and it's fantastic, our little school offers fantastic visual performing arts program. I always make it a point to brag on our drama teacher. He does a lot with what he has to work with. I mean, our kids are fantastic, very talented. This year, we're actually going to perform a musical. I had parents last year when I came into the school, and they said, "We have fantastic kids here." I said, "I don't disagree with that." He said, "No, I'm serious. They're musically talented. They can sing and play instruments." It's like, let's do a musical. So I took it to our performing arts department, and they said, "Let's get that done." And this year, we'll have a musical. I'm looking forward to it. Again, just more of the visual performing arts that we offer. We do have athletics, and we have I have to brag, one of our girls is here tonight. She's a softball player. She'll speak in a minute. But our girls softball team won a NCS CIF banner last year. They had the best grade point average in the NCS. They beat 330 other teams. They had a 3.85 cumulative grade point average as a team, and we have a banner in the office and everything. It's great. It's cool. But you can see we compete in school in a league with, obviously we're not playing Granada or Livermore High, but we're playing schools that are like us. So again, we have women's athletics as well. This is kind of cool. We have so many clubs. I was amazed to see all the clubs that we offer when I got to the school last year. We have a club for everything. We've even added a few this year. You know, students have a demand. I find a staff member to sponsor it, and away we go. It's kind of cool. The student in the picture will actually speak later. Asha, do you see your picture? She doesn't even see it. One thing we do at our school that I think is really cool, again, teaching the intangibles. They're called POLs, presentations of learning. So at the end of the semester, our students are giving a presentation to their peers in advisory. It's a safe environment. 8 students are in the audience and a staff member. It's in their advisory class. Because at this age, you can imagine students have a hard time getting up in front of their peers. But we make a very safe environment for them. And they basically go over what they learned from the semester. It's really cool to watch. Parents come watch it. It's amazing. They get dressed up. They wear ties and shirts and shoes with laces, and it's awesome. And this, we're actually revamping the, 4 years into it, we've decided to make it different. So our freshmen will do the tried and true PowerPoint. Sophomores will go ahead and look at doing, there's a presentation method called a Pechakucha. Companies in Silicon Valley use this. It's a real succinct way of getting information across to your shareholders or to your presentation, to your crowd. We're going to teach them that, and they're going to work up to a TED Talk in their senior year, because TED Talk is really, it's here to stay. It's a way of presenting information that even, kids use it, companies use it. It's all over the internet. Check it out, Google it, it's worth it. We also have something very cool at our school. So we have Las Positas professors come to our school and teach our students, and they get credit in both schools. And this last year, the senior class was the first, obviously the first senior class, and they went to college. And they were able to transfer those credits to the college that they went to. It was really, really, really fun and neat to see that, because it was a lot of work to get this program in place, and those students work very hard because it's a college-level class. They're expected to be college-level in this class, and those professors hold them to that. Trust me. They're very good people, but they make our students work. They stretch their brains out, and it's really great to see that happening on our campus. I won't even bother going over all the elements, but there are 16 elements, and we think that we meet these elements. Again, you're doing your review with our charter, making sure that is the case. Just a quick snapshot. We did receive our WAS accreditation. When I arrived on the scene, we were in the middle of that, and I had to pick that up quickly. 94% of our kids were admitted to university or two-year college last year. It's a fantastic number out of 79 students. We have a high attendance rate. Kids like coming to our school. Students enjoy our school. You can see our course offerings at the bottom. There's no official graduation rate yet, but we did use the state formula and use CalPAS to back it up, and we talked to people in Sacramento at length, and it'll be 98.7%, which is very good. Highlights, demographics. So we're very in tune, very in line with the demographics of Livermore High School and Granada High School. There are some exceptions, of course. Every school is different. We do have double the percentage of Asian students, as you can see in the numbers. But for all intents and purposes, and clearly we're way smaller than those two schools, but for all intents and purposes, we're nearly lockstep with them in every demographic. Graduation requirements. So our first-year freshmen are actually following the UC and CSU recommendations, not just the requirements. And you have that in front of you as well, I believe. One of the check boxes that you have to check to become eligible for renewal is to meet, the measurable outcomes that the state puts forth, and we meet those. Wow, that's the last slide. In short, and I think I was less than 10 minutes, Mr. Manchak, we are proud to be a part of the community. This is a great community. All of us in this room, most of us are Livermore residents, and we want to, to continue to provide a service in this community that parents and students want, and to work with the district to make this place the best absolute place it can be to live in. I have a young daughter. I want her to be in a community that's awesome. And what is she, 7? So in 10 years, when she's graduating from high school, I want it to be here in Livermore. So thank you. That's all I have.
Trying to say something? No?
No.
Okay.
We can be available to answer any questions if you have them
Okay.
at this point, but certainly if there aren't any, that's fine.
All right, so this is a public hearing, so I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing and take comment, and I'm going to start with Sam Pettit, and Sam will be followed by Melissa Parker. So if you can be ready to go, appreciate that. Yes, please, and use the mic so that not only can we hear you here, but the people watching the recording will be able to hear you.
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sam. I'm a freshman at LVCP. I gotta say, I've been to many schools. At this point, the preparatory is my 7th school since preschool. 6 of them have been in the Livermore School District, and this by far is the best. Both the charter school, from which I promoted top 8 of my class, received a principal's award and got 5 medals in 8th grade promotion. That and this school are by far the best schools I've attended. I believe that this school is one of the best places to get education for high school and elementary or middle, because it offers courses in high school it offers courses, college credit courses. I'm currently taking AP Human Geography, which is a very difficult class, but it is preparing me for what college will be like. So once it happens, once college comes up for me, I won't be completely surprised. And another thing that both schools offer is IEPs. A lot of schools anywhere don't offer special courses for people that have speech impediments or the autism or other stuff like that. My brother, he's had some issues with speaking and stuff like that, and we're very lucky that he was able to have a speech class. At his other schools, he wasn't able to get one of those, but here at LVCS he was. And LVCP is an extension of LVCS, and I feel that it is a great place for anybody who attended LVCS, and even if you didn't, to be able to go to this school. It really does prepare you for college, and it's a very open and safe environment, and since it's such a small school, everyone knows each other, and we're all pretty close. It's really nice there. Yeah.
Okay. And everyone that wants to support that statement, would you like to raise your hand? All right. Thank you for showing your support. And Melissa Parker, please. And after Melissa, we're going to hear from Jocelyn Casey. Welcome.
Hello, thank you. Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to coming here to speak and express why I believe the charter petition should be renewed. As you mentioned, my name is Melissa Parker, and I've lived here in Livermore since 1998, with the exception of about 4 years. I have 3 children. My oldest daughter is a junior at LVCP, and I have 2 boys who are at Christensen Middle School. So I've had students at Croce Elementary, Altamont Creek Elementary, Christensen, Livermore High School, and now the charter high school. So I've kind of got a flavor of all the Livermore schools and what they all have to offer. I wanted to come here tonight to talk about my daughter's experience at the high school. She began her freshman year at Livermore High School, and it just wasn't a good fit for her. It was too big. She said she felt lost and was worried about her schoolwork, that she wasn't doing good, or she wasn't learning the way that she thought that she could and that she had at her middle school and her elementary schools. So we looked around, and she transferred to the charter prep school in around Thanksgiving of her freshman year. And in her words, she said, you know, as the other people have expressed, it's a really close-knit community. Everyone is really friendly. The teachers are very open and willing to talk to the students. I'm kind of running out of time, so I just wanted to highlight a few of the reasons why I feel like the charter high school is a wonderful complement here in Livermore. One thing is the athletic program. I just thought it was wonderful that you can participate in varsity athletics and not be a star athlete. The other high schools in Livermore are at a very competitive sports league, and I just feel like athletics is very important for a lot of students, and I think that it's great that you don't have to be a star athlete to participate in sports at LVCP. The project-based learning that Mr. Dilly mentioned is also wonderful. My daughter right now is in digital photography, and she's collaborating with her teacher to create a website for one of the finalists on the show Project Runway, one of the designers. And I just thought that was an amazing way for them to see how their work in the classroom can actually be put into action out in the real world. Another thing I really wanted to highlight was the supportive learning environment from the teachers and the staff alike. My daughter had a wonderful experience last year. She was able to participate in the National History Day competition, and I had never heard of that before, but apparently it's been around for 30 years. It's basically like a science fair for those who are interested in history. My time is up, I know. But briefly, I just want to say that thanks to the support of her history teachers and the school, she, as well as other students, participated at the county and the state level. And my daughter actually won at the state level and went on to participate at the national level in Washington, D.C.
I'm going to ask you
this June.
To wrap it up.
So, thank you. Thank you for considering the renewal, and I hope that you support it.
All right, everyone that... If you want to agree with that speaker, if you'd show hands, thank you. And so Jocelyn Casey, and then we'll be followed by, looks like Asha, and I'm sorry, Melose. Welcome.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I prepared a speech, but I think I'm just going to speak about my experience in general. So I was really nervous to start high school my freshman year. I'm a junior now. And when I first attended LVCP, it was very welcoming. Usually when you go to high school, there are many social classes, and it's divided into freshmen stay with freshmen and upperclassmen stay with upperclassmen. And I was greeted by so many people. And it was really nice to be in have an experience where people are very welcoming and they take you into their groups. I thought that the sports, as Mr. Dilly said before, I play softball, and it's awesome to play at a varsity level. I've never played softball before. My freshman year, I tripped over first base every time I ran. So over the years, I'm getting better, but people will still support you. And as a junior, I think it passes on to people who come. So I'm very open now, and I'm very outgoing, and the school really supports you in that. Also, academically, I was not doing well in school before, and when I came here, the teachers really care about you doing well. And so there would be days where I'd stay after school for like 2 hours working on work because I just didn't get it. But they will stay with you until you understand it. And that's something that you don't usually get at regular schools, and they'll tell you to go look in the textbook or do it on your own because they have lives outside of that. But the teachers don't care because they want you to succeed, because they believe that we are the future of America, which is awesome. In addition, they prepare you for college a lot. Also said before, we do POLs every semester, which prepares you for speaking in front of people. I probably would never have spoken in front of any of you if I hadn't have done POLs. I think that it's awesome, just the things that they prepare you with. We do little things, I mean, just things that prepare you for college, and I'm taking a college class now. And before I was like, oh, why do we have to do this? But it helps a lot. I mean, the school itself, it stands for so much more than just a charter school. It inspires you to do more, and it pushes you to your limits, and even farther than that. And it helps you to become something that you never thought you would be. I had a quote by Thomas Jefferson. He said, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed to their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." I said, "Some may agree with me when I say I have most definitely pursued happiness in attending LVCP." Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And everyone who agrees with that statement, thank you very much. And Aisha, and then our last speaker will be Sabbath Mickelson. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Asha Malachine. I'm a junior in LVCP. So when I was in 8th grade, I went to Mendenhall Middle School, and that was also a great school. And when I was in 8th grade, it was like end of 8th grade, it came time for registration. And I was in between LVCP and a couple other schools. Those were more bigger schools. I really liked the idea that LVCP was the smallest school, something new and unique. I can't really give you a significant reason why I chose LVCP, but I can tell you why I stayed. So my freshman year, my first couple weeks, I kept hearing the words LVCP culture kind of thrown around. And as I progressed through the year, I was thinking to myself, what does this mean? And I realized that LVCP culture is not a phrase, it's a concept. It identifies the student body as a whole. It illustrates that every student at LVCP is their own person. It advocates personal individuality. When I walk through the halls at LVCP and I see students, I see the students interact with each other and how they behave and interact in their environment. And you can tell that we're not just an average high school. We're not some mainstream stereotypical school. We're so much more than that. And I feel like I'm really happy at LVCP. And we also offer a lot of academic and extracurricular opportunities here at LVCP. As Mr. Dilly mentioned, we have college classes. I feel like college classes are opportunities within opportunities. They've helped me mature intellectually and socially, and I feel like at a lot of schools, college classes aren't offered. And if they are, they aren't as great as some of ours. I currently take a college class. I take college English, and college English is one of my favorite classes, and I really like that class because I feel like we have a Las Positas professor that comes to our class, and she treats us as if we're college students, not high school students. We're treated like maturely as if any other college student would be treated. Also at our school, we have expected school-wide learning results, ESLERs. Act responsibly, communicate effectively, think critically, be creative, and stay current. Also, as Mr. Dilly mentioned, we present those in our POLs, our presentations for 20 minutes. And I feel like this criteria defines what we as students are aiming to be and what we're hoping to achieve. At LVCP, I take 3 APs in a college class, and it's a lot of work, but I feel like I have a lot of people at LVCP who really support me and want me to do well, and they're willing to help me in every way they can. My academic counselor, even when she's busy, her name's Ms. Gooker, even when she's busy, she always makes time for me, no matter what it is, even if it's something little as changing a class, or if I want to talk to her about college, she's always willing to put aside what she's doing to help me. I told Mr. Dilly last year and our PE teacher that I wanted a tennis team because we didn't have a tennis team. And next thing you know, this year we have a tennis team and we have 15 kids on the team. And yeah, thank you.
All right, everybody knows. If you associate with that, raise your hand. Thank you. And we have our last speaker, Sabbath.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. It's lovely to see you all here this evening, as well as our amazing turnout for most of us in association with the Charter Preparatory. So I just want to say really quick, as much as I talk about, I'm a senior, and so I'm going off to college soon. I'm also senior class president, so I'm really involved in my school. But I talk constantly. I can't wait to get out. I can't wait to go somewhere new. I can't wait to see the world. I can't wait to get out of the town I was raised in. But I like to reflect on the fact, every once in a while I like to sit down, at my patio in my backyard and in the beautiful skies, in our lovely sunsets, and reflect on the fact that Livermore is actually a wonderful community. I like to reflect on the fact that I go to schools and have constantly attended schools. I went to Portola Elementary, which was sadly shut down, as well as East Avenue Middle School, and now I'm in attendance at the Charter High School. But both through public and charter education, I really had the opportunity to strive, which I think is something that a lot of students can't say. I think that the opportunity to strive is something that is found individually amongst students in correlation with strong teachers and strong academic institutions. And I think that Livermore offers all three of those things. I would also like to say that I think that the Charter High School offers an alternative education, not in competition with LHS and Granada, but in correlation with their goals. You know, they strive to send students to college, to send students into the workforce, and into the community that are prepared global citizens with, you know, beliefs of responsibility and kindness. And I think that my school does the same. And so I'd love to see LHS and Granada and my school work together rather than work against one another. And I think that we've seen that in the last couple of years with our charter and having a graduating class. And I think it's really amazing to see, you know, my football games are played on LHS and Granada's field, and how welcoming those students are, and the teachers and the staff and the faculty, how welcome they are of my school. And so I think that it's just a really amazing thing to see how Livermore as a community is striving, and I truly believe that's because the schools we have here really offer something special. We really offer teachers and students and ideas that are cutting edge and that are going to make our world a better place. And so I think that by, you know, renewing the charter petition for LVCP, you're really going to allow another school that has something to offer into your district. And I think, you know, what a great opportunity to give the best to your students. And that's really why we're here, right? Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
All right. Everyone in agreement? Want to show? Thank you. Now, I am out of cards, but I do not want someone to leave here tonight feeling that their viewpoint was not represented. So I'm going to say, if you have something that you feel that we need to hear, now is the time. This is a public hearing. Okay, seeing no one, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, and I'm going to ask if any board member wants to comment. Nope. Okay. We're going to move on to the next item. I'm going to pause for just a minute because I know a lot of you probably don't want to stay for the whole meeting, so thank you for joining us. I'm going to pass these down. Hearing compliance with Education Code Section 60119. So if we could have the presentation on that.
Sure. So thank you, Madam President. This time I will ask Mrs. Amy Robbins, our Director of Curriculum and Special Projects, to do the honors of providing the background information prior to the formal opening of the public hearing.
Good evening again. Tonight I bring to you our annual public hearing regarding the notification of compliance with Educational Code 60119, which is in regards to sufficiency of instructional materials for this current school year. So when we're looking at compliance, there are a couple factors into play here. One has to do with our Williams Settlement Certification and the Ed Code, which I just stated, which describes the sufficiency of textbooks that is needed, and we must come before you as a public hearing within the first 8 weeks of school. So to be described or to define sufficiency, it is determined that each and every student within our school, including our English learners, have the standards aligned textbooks or instructional materials in the 4 core subject areas, and that would be English language arts, mathematics, history, social science, as well as in science. Also, compliance would mean that our students have the materials for their health and their foreign language courses, and that our high school science labs are equipped to ensure instruction can carry on and our students are able to access the content. So that's the background for our public hearing. The next step would be to open the public hearing, and I'll turn it over to you.
All right, so we're going to do just that. We're going to open the public hearing, and is there a speaker who would like to speak on this topic? I feel like you need that Jeopardy music, but It looks like we're not going to have anyone to speak, and I commend the staff on that because I think everybody's happy that they've got what they need. So I'm going to close a public hearing and ask if any board member had a comment. Nope, we're good, everybody? All right, we're going to close out that topic and move on. Madam Superintendent, would you like to introduce the first action item?
Certainly, it's my pleasure to ask Mr. Chris Van Schack to introduce this item, and this is, we've had a series now of ratifications coming before the board, and so he will do the honors of the introduction of the California School Employees Association status.
Thank you, Ms. Bowers. I am happy to be here today to describe for you the contract settlement that has taken place recently between the district and our California School Employee Association Chapter 334. We did reach our agreement for a contract that runs from July 1st, 2014 through June 30th, 2017, so it's a 3-year contract. The tentative agreement was ratified recently, September the 24th, overwhelmingly. Just a couple of the highlights. We did reach agreement on 2 articles, Article 6 and Article 8. Article 6 has to do with workday, and this has to do actually with employees being required to take a lunch if they work 5 hours or more. This is actually state law. What had happened, unfortunately, is some of our employees were taking their lunch before their shift or after, which created problems for them and for us, and so we just tightened up the language a little bit to make sure that they were taking their lunch break during their shift and not at either end of it. The other change in language we had was Article 8, and this is merely clarification that employees who left us mid-year and had negative vacation balance, the negative amount that they owed us would be taken out of their last check. And so this is a request by CSEA to put that into language so that their members were aware of that. And so again, that was not a new agreement, but it was contract language that defined something that we'd been doing already. In terms of reopeners, we agreed that for the next 2 years we would reopen Article 15, which is salary, Article 16, which is health and welfare, and then each side would get 1 additional article to open. Again, as I mentioned before, this is a 3-year contract, so we're very happy to have a 3-year contract settled. In addition to the contract language changes, we did agree to impose Article 25.2, which is the Me Too, which would provide CSEA members with a 2.58% increase, which had been settled upon by other groups prior. And we also agreed, even though we wanted to wrap things up, we agreed to continue conversations about the 4 articles that we had not yet finished. And so those are listed here. And again, we felt it really important to wrap up those items that we had reached agreement on already. The articles, particularly in terms of reclassification, professional growth, and evaluation, are going to take some time. So we decided that we'd go ahead and continue to meet on those topics, even though we hadn't reached agreement yet. So that's the extent of the agreement. We're very happy. The process was a collaborative one. Both sides, I think, are walking away feeling as though their needs were met, and we're ready to move on with doing good things.
Thank you very much. And is there any member of the public that would like to comment? Member of the board? Dr. Dunlop.
Just like to thank the CSEA and Mr. Van Schack for working very hard to get this all organized and presented to us. So we really appreciate the effort to finish this up promptly.
All right. If there are no other comments, I'll entertain a motion. Somebody?
Well, I'll move that we approve the agreement
Second.
with CSEA as outlined by Mr. Van Schack.
All right. And Mr. Rogie, will you call the roll?
Yes, Mrs. White.
Aye.
Dr. Dunlop.
Aye.
Myself, aye, and President Runyon.
Aye. And so that passes unanimously, and I commend both sides on coming to that agreement, and we await our last agreement. So hopefully that'll be arriving soon. And that brings us to general obligation bonds.
So thank you, Madam President. I will ask Mrs. Susan Kinder, our Chief Business Official, to introduce this item, as well as we have representatives from Public Financial Management who will provide a report and recommendation regarding potential refinancing of Measure L, general obligation bonds, which will hopefully generate savings for Livermore taxpayers.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'd like to invite Makiko Sato up. She's our financial advisor from Public Finance Management. And we also have John Palmer here from ORIC. He's our bond counsel, so he'd be happy to answer some questions that you may have. And as you'll recall, on September 18th, we had a very in-depth workshop that talked about different scenarios of refinancing our bonds and potential savings for the taxpayers. And so I will turn this over to Makiko, who will give you a nice little slideshow of our proposal for tonight.
All right, thank you very much, Susan. Good evening, board members, Superintendent Bowers. Thank you very much for your time tonight, and thank you for your time during the board study session in September. I'm here to provide some additional information about the refunding bonds. I'll cover some of the same information we covered at the board study session and move on to some of the documents that you're considering tonight. So as you know, you have some bonds outstanding under Measure L, which passed in March of 1999 with very strong support. The district has a very conservative debt service profile, which is essentially level through 2024 and steps down as bonds are repaid. The tax rates in connection with the district's bond program are very low compared to other unified school districts in Alameda County.
I'm sure you want to say that twice. We wouldn't want the public to miss that.
Yeah, the tax rates are set at $50, and you can see that, compared to all the other school districts in Alameda County, they're very low. It's just a little bit, tad bit higher than Snow Glen. So. Market update, we're here today because interest rates are very low. The slide on page 4 shows historical interest rates since 1990, and you can see that except for a little time period in mid-2012, we're really at some of the lowest interest rates that we've seen over the last 20 plus years. As you are aware, low interest rate environments are a good time to be thinking about refunding bond issuances. Bond refundings are similar to refinancing your mortgage. You're able to reset your interest rate on your existing bonds to market rates that will be lower. This will generate savings for the district taxpayers. State law requires that you generate at least $1 worth of savings in your refunding, and it doesn't allow you to extend the repayment term. Currently, we looked at 3 refunding candidates, the Series 2002, the Series 2005, and the Series 2006. These, as you can see with the call feature, these are the bonds that are going to be currently callable, which are the best candidates. At the board study session in September, we looked at a number of options. Option 1 was the traditional approach of taking savings evenly throughout the remaining term of the bonds. We looked at other options 2 through 4, which all looked at opportunities to repay bonds a little faster. Option 2 was kind of a hybrid where you would still realize some savings in earlier years, but shorten the repayment term on the bonds by 2 years. Option 3, shorten the repayment term by 3 years, but really kept debt service payments the same in the earlier years. Option 4 was one where we accelerated payments and shortened the repayment term even further, but would keep the tax rates at current levels a little bit higher than they would have been otherwise. There was extensive discussion on the merits and drawbacks of each option, as I recall, and I understand that the superintendent's recommendation is to look at option number 2, moving forward and structuring the savings for the refunding. So the refunding objectives under option 2 would be to generate significant savings for taxpayers, repay bonds a little bit earlier than the current repayment schedule, but to realize some savings in every year. So we're not increasing debt service obligations in any year. Under option 2, we estimate that the present value savings is about a little over $7 million, or as a percentage of the refunded bonds, 12.4%. The industry standard that we talk about a lot here is 3%, so this is a very attractive refunding opportunity.
And could you say again, this money does not come to the district. This is for the taxpayers. Is that correct?
Yes. The district is doing this refunding purely for the benefit of the taxpayers. So all of these savings that we're showing tonight will go directly to taxpayers to reduce the tax rates on the existing debt service.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So here is, the board is asked to consider a bond resolution tonight, which would accomplish 5 objectives. First, it would authorize the districts to move forward with the issuance of bonds. It establishes some broad parameters of the refunding bonds. It also allows for a negotiated sale of the bonds, makes some commitments as an issuer of public debt, and approves a number of documents in draft format. So some of the parameters that are in the resolution are that the bonds will be used, the refunding bonds will be used to refund the 3 series of bonds that we discussed. The bonds will be structured entirely as current interest bonds. The final maturity of the refunding bonds will be no longer than the final maturity on the prior refunded bonds, which is the legal requirement. As we discussed earlier, we're going to be looking for opportunities to shorten that term by 1 or 2 years. The resolution also specifies a minimum savings threshold at 6% on a present value basis. And this is a fairly conservative estimate. We're hoping that the refunding will generate significantly more savings than what's stated in the resolution, that these establish some broad parameters. In terms of the method of sale, at the September board study session, we talked about the 2 ways of selling bonds, competitive and negotiated sale. Factors that you consider when evaluating method of sale could include market conditions, structure of the bond, and district ratings. After an extensive discussion, there was direction to say that we were going to move forward with a negotiated sale because of the heightened disclosure issues that have occurred in the market. And to maintain an element of competition, though, the district has solicited proposals for multiple underwriters, and our plan is to interview some of the firms next week. In terms of the commitments of the district will have a preliminary official statement that will, at the time of the sale, will be distributed to investors, and that final document should not contain any material omissions or misstatements of fact. So, being open with investors, fully comply with the requirements of the continuing disclosure certificate, so the requirement to keep investors updated on an annual basis, and finally to comply with federal tax laws to make sure that the bonds are tax exempt. There are a number of other documents, and John Palmer can talk to these.
Good evening. I'll try and run through the documents fairly quickly, and if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me and ask them. The preliminary official statement, as Makiko said, is the document that you use to introduce investors to your bonds and tell them about the district. It's primarily broken into 2 parts. The first part, which is we call the front part, describes the tax base of the district, and the second part, which we call Appendix A, describes the operations of the district and takes a fairly deep dive into the general fund. We work closely with district staff to put that information together. Right now you have a form of that in front of you. You're approving the form and delegating its completion to staff in connection with us. The bond purchase contract is the agreement that you will eventually enter into with the underwriter, selling them your bonds and authorizing them to turn around and resell them to investors. The bond purchase contract has a number of representations that you make to the underwriter, and we go through those with staff at the time of signing to make sure that they're all true. The paying agent agreement is the document that governs the bonds and sets forth the interest rate and the maturity schedule and the redemption provisions and the mechanics for actually getting the bonds paid. The escrow agreement, if we end up using one, is an agreement with an escrow bank works kind of like when you buy your house, to put the money into an escrow and it sits there until the closing date and then gets taken to repay the bonds that we're refunding. And the continuing disclosure certificate, which Makiko also already described a little bit, is your agreement to keep investors apprised of goings-on in the district on a going-forward basis. And that is principally comprised of an annual report, which is your audit and a little additional information, and then the agreement to let investors know if any what we call material events or events that they would want to know about occur. So those is a quick overview of the documents that we're preparing in connection with the refunding, and I'm happy to take any questions if you have any at this time.
Members of the board? Mrs. White, did you have a question?
I went through this afternoon, and I was, I don't speak finance very well. I can learn it when somebody teaches it to me and understand it then, but right off the top, it's difficult. Where is it in the resolution that says we're going to do option 2?
What?
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
absolutely.
I looked hard and I couldn't find.
And so what the resolution does is establishes some outside parameters beyond which staff can't go, but it doesn't exactly spell out option 2. We're going to need some flexibility as we go into pricing to figure out exactly what that's going to mean in terms of numbers. It'll be within the parameters you delegate, but it's really your instruction tonight to staff and your team to enact option 2 that will make that choice.
And what are tell me about the variables that will enter into this.
So
details.
Makiko described them a little bit, but what you're saying is there's a maximum amount of bonds that you can issue.
We said that, $65 million.
Right. And there is a maximum interest rate that any bond can bear, which is 6%. You're saying that you have to get at least 6% savings in order to do the transaction, although right now we're well higher than that. You're saying that you're not going to pay your underwriter more than 0.5% of the principal amount, or what we call $5 a bond, and that no bond will mature beyond the final maturity of the currently outstanding bonds, although, with the direction to do option 2, we may be able to shave a couple of years off of that. And so those are the outside parameters that you're delegating to staff, and then we'll work within those to make sure that we get as close to the option 2 that Makiko presented as the market allows it.
Okay, and so some of the other options we're going to pay off some of the bonds sooner rather than this scheme.
I'll let Makiko talk about the options.
Okay.
Yeah, as John mentioned, actually the resolution, the parameters doesn't specify any of the options, and if I recall all the options, all of them would still be allowed under the resolution parameters. But what we've heard is the recommendation from the superintendent and direction from the board to structure the savings in that way. So there's nothing written in the resolution that specifies the option 2.
So, and actually, we haven't heard direction. What we heard direction from the board was to look at the options, and we had additional information from the study session, which was many hours. And so after that, the board directed staff and asked our council and advisors to give additional information and explore an additional option. From that, the recommendation tonight, which you're getting, is that to approve the resolution as it stands, and my recommendation as the superintendent is that we pursue option 2. And certainly if from a discussion tonight you wanted to go in a different direction, it wouldn't negate the resolution. It would just give a preference to a different option that we discussed at length in the study session.
And the reason that we can't specify is the market conditions change continuously.
Yeah, it's not that we can't necessarily specify. I guess we could. It's just that the resolution is written in such a way that gives us some flexibility in the event of market change.
What we are trying to avoid is to have a delay, because there is really a prime time now for doing this. And if we were to wait for another board meeting or another special session, then things would not move along. And so the resolution is not constraining us, but certainly the direction from the board is what we will pursue.
And I just want to add, I think that option 2 was a compromise of being conservative and getting savings every year, and then also taking advantage of being able to pay off a little bit earlier. So it was just a compromise of both sides.
Total dollar savings
Yeah.
to the taxpayer.
Correct.
You know, and I appreciate the analysis that went on behind the scenes for the modification, and then looking at it and saying it wasn't a good choice. I'm very happy with the regular option 2 and the $7.4 million total savings. I think the community should appreciate that back in their pockets. Were there any other questions? Because
I have a clarification on the bond parameters. You have an asterisk about the ultimate par amounts of the bonds, and the figure on the resolution is simply not to exceed figure. Where in the resolution is that not to exceed figure?
So it should be in the title of the resolution, and in the first operative paragraph.
Oh, okay, it's the 65 million.
Right.
Okay.
And then when we actually go out to sell the bonds, depending on the amount of premium that we get, we may or may not sell this full 65 million. And so what we're telling investors is that number is preliminary as we go out to offer the bonds, and subject to change based on what actually happens on the pricing date. And in the final official statement, which will include all of the final pricing numbers, the asterisks will go away, and we'll have whatever final principal amount of bonds we actually sold in there.
Thank you.
And just to follow up on that, based on the calculations that we've been doing, the actual amount will likely to be, the par amount would be likely to be in the mid-50s, 56 million or so.
Okay. I do have 2 questions of my own, if everyone else. Okay. I recommend to people the preliminary official statement. You can learn an awful lot about school districts, how they're financed, our general condition, how taxes are collected. I was surprised when I got to the part about the teeter arrangement. And for the public, generally when people pay their taxes, the county collects them and then they send our portion to us. And when people don't pay them, the county sends us the money, and when they do true up, pay their tax and pay their penalties, the county keeps that penalty. But I didn't realize that these bonds are not under the teeter arrangement.
So my understanding is that the general 1%, your portion of the general 1% levy is under the teeter, but that bond debt service isn't. And so the county distinguishes between those 2 tax payments in the application of the teeter plan. And we'll make sure that we confirm that with the county before the document is finalized.
Okay, well, and I don't think it matters so much now because the delinquencies have declined so much, and again, that shows in that document. But I would appreciate, as a follow-up to this tonight, if we could get clarification on which of our things are and which of our things are not in the teeter arrangement. I know, for example, the parcel tax, we only get it when the county collects it. But it just helps me do my homework when I know what the arrangements are. And then I did have a question, and I did hear what you said about outside parameters, but on the resolution, and for me it's shown up as a page number 3, but it's not the 3rd page because we started without a page number. Section 3, terms of the refunding bonds, and it shall be no more than 6%. I thought that it would be considerably lower than that 6%. Can you explain to me how that number was chosen?
Sure. The 6%, there's 2 different concepts in there. There's the actual borrowing rate, the true interest cost, the yield on the bonds, and then the what's the language? It's nominal interest rate is the language.
Basically the coupon.
Yeah, that's the coupon on the bonds. I think it's stated nominal interest rate in the documents. And we've seen a lot of 5% coupons in the market. So in order to, even though the actual yield on the bonds is significantly lower than that, I wanted to provide a little bit of flexibility to, I'm thinking that it's unlikely that we'll go over 5% in any given the term, but wanted to, give a little bit of a flexibility there.
Are you selling them above par?
Above par is, we've seen some of the maturities priced at above
Because
par.
people are looking for the yield.
They're looking for a higher coupon because if interest rates go up, that shelters them from a decrease in price.
Okay, so that could be the coupon, but we're not going to pay that kind of interest because that would be an increase and that wouldn't make any sense to do.
No.
I just needed that assurance. I needed to understand since it was written in that way.
And what's important is the minimum savings threshold. And I think the reality is if the market moves that dramatically within the next couple of weeks, I think we'd have further conversations with district staff and with you.
So does the minimum savings threshold apply to each issue or just across the whole? Because that was my concern when I read this. That
actually, it applies to all the refunding bonds, but we've been looking at them by a per series and by per maturity basis, and most of them are all generating savings. I think the one exception might be the first maturity, but we typically just include that for convenience sake, and the reason that first maturity doesn't generate as much savings is because the time period remaining on that is not very long.
Okay.
Yeah, but the number really to focus on is that we can't do the deal if we fall below 6% savings. Right. But right now we're double that. So that's the thing that sort of is the basic protection that you have in the delegation.
So at home, all the taxpayers should be cheering because what they should be hearing is save 6% on your property tax. There you go. Just for these bonds. Got to be careful. Not the whole bill. Just for that.
But it is a line item on their tax bill.
Which is a line item on their tax bill.
It's not meshed in with all the other taxes that they pay.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. And just for, this is not a requirement, as I understand, under state law, but for good practice, we wanted to disclose the financing costs associated with the refunding. The savings that were presented are already net of these costs and net of any underwriting costs, which are not shown here. And the financing schedule, if the board decides to move forward with this refunding tonight, we expect to be able to price in early November and close in mid-November. So thank you.
Thanks. Okay, I don't know about everyone else, but I'd be comfortable moving this resolution up and just dealing with it. So,
Madam President, I move that we adopt Resolution 9, 1415.
There you go.
I'll second that.
All right, and Mr. Rogi, would you call the roll?
You told them who we are yet?
He's got to sign it. It's all right.
New way of doing things here. It's not that I don't know your names. All right, here we go. Mrs. Runyon.
Aye.
Mrs. White.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Dr. Dunlop.
Aye.
And that's unanimous. Go forth and save our taxpayers some money. Thank you. Just set aside. Can you?
Well, our next item would be Mr. Scott Vernoy, and he's going to be sharing with you the latest, greatest version of board policies and administrative regulations from Series 0200 and 5144.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Madam President, Superintendent Bowers, members of the board. It's my pleasure tonight to bring to you two policies for your reading pleasure. One from Series 0 and another from Series 5000. We had a first reading, our first posting on September 3rd, and our first reading was at our last board meeting, September 16th. Our second posting was immediately following the board meeting on September 18th, and I bring to you tonight a second and final reading on October 7th. So a little background again, that these two bills are being brought to you because of AB 97, our school finance bill, that has changed the funding from general purpose entitlement to calculated monetary support pursuant to the local control funding formula. And the replacement of an existing board policy is Board Policy 0200, goals for school district. The policy is updated and delete the sample goal and add concepts related to new law, which requires the district to develop annual goals aligned with specific state priorities and any local priorities, and include those goals in the district local control accountability plan, or LCAP. It also provides us with a template to be used in the LCAP development. I added a slide today because I thought it was important that we sort of understand. This morning I got a call from Mr. Rogi, and he was reading over the policy, and he couldn't understand a paragraph, and
let's not say it like that.
Well, the paragraph didn't make sense to him, which was understandable once we discussed it. But as you can see, it's all because of one letter. And so the district and each school site may establish goals for inclusion in other districts. So he was thinking outside districts, how can we put something in outside districts and school plans or for any other purpose. But the S was added on accident. And so when you take the S away, it's the district and each school site may establish goals for inclusion in other district or school plans or for any other purpose. I just wanted to point this out, and because I really appreciate the work that all of you do in taking your job so serious and taking the time to read and to edit for us and to help us through this process. So I would suggest this edit as well. That's all I have for that policy. Any questions on 0200?
Nobody? All right, you can go on.
Board Policy 5144 is discipline, the revision of an existing board policy. Again, it's being updated to reflect new law, which requires the district's LCAP to include goals for addressing student engagement and school climate, and add additional language related to the establishment of discipline matrix listing consequences associated with various violations. Regulations updated to reflect new law, which requires the development of LCAP goals and specific actions related to school climate. Do we have any questions at this time? Seeing none, the superintendent's recommendation for tonight is to approve the second and final reading of the proposed replacement board policy from Series 0 and proposed revision of board policy from Series 5000 with the edits that were included.
Okay, can I have a motion?
I move that we approve the Administrative Regulations Series 000 and 5000 with the consummate changes and finalize the second reading.
Awesome. Dr. Dunlop, were you going to second that?
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Rogi, will you call the roll?
Dr. Dunlop.
Aye.
Myself, aye. President Runyon.
Aye.
Mrs. White.
Aye.
All right, and that brings us to consent items. So did anyone want to pull any item?
I would like to discuss one item briefly, and that would be the approval of gifts.
Mr. Rogi.
And let me find it real quick. One thing I did want to note, the fiscal impact is, this is the wrong one. No, it isn't. The donations of cash and equipment are valued at $241,734 for district-wide programs. And I do, and I'm sure the rest of the board also expresses their thanks to everybody who has given to the district, and please continue to give to the district.
There you go. Hear, hear. All right. If there's no other comment, consider a motion.
I move that we adopt consent items A through I.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second it.
Great. And if Mr. Ogie, if you'll call the roll.
President Runyon.
Aye.
Mrs. White.
Aye.
Dr. Dunlop.
Aye.
And myself, aye.
Okay, and that brings us to the two remaining resolutions. We've already done 9, which is C. So anyone want to talk about Resolution 7 or Resolution 8?
I would like to talk about 8.
I thought you might.
No, actually, it's 8. And 8 is recognizing character education. And I think our superintendent and I remember back when, about 10 years ago, we voted to make this something in all of the schools. And 10 years ago, or when I got on the board, I remember that we were expelling past Z every year. And I think that in the last few years, we're starting to see the kindergarten students who have been seeing character education for 10 years come into our high schools. And even talking to principals and teachers, they all say, gee, there's really an improvement in the students that we're getting. So we've done something right, or we've been the luckiest district in the area. But I do want to compliment the teachers and staff who take the time to emphasize good character to our students and model it for them.
Thank you, Dr. Dunlop. And I think it starts right here, too. I think that I want to commend my fellow board members for being so respectful to each other and the community, that we can set the tone for the community by being respectful ourselves. And I agree with everything Dr. Dunlop has said. So if there are any other comments, or are we ready to move on this? All right.
Well, I'll move that we pass or accept resolutions 07-1415 and 08-1415.
President Runyon, I say that we break these out and vote separately, as the fact that we do vote by roll call now.
Well, we can roll call on both of them, unless you wanted to pull them.
Well, I'm just
because you
saying if somebody wanted to vote
differently.
adversely, then that would
Yeah,
affect both.
they would ask to pull it then, so.
Okay, just wanted to make that point.
All right. So is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And Mr. Ogie, if you'll call the roll.
Yes, President Runyon?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
Myself, aye, and Dr. Dunlop.
Aye.
Okay, so that brings us to board member reports. Would anyone like to volunteer for first?
I'll go first.
Mrs. White.
I was delighted to attend the Teacher of the Year Award last Thursday night. It was good to see Diane Russell acknowledged for her efforts to initiate the Culinary Arts Academy that's going to be at Del Val, that is at Del Val. And, none of the teachers there said, by George, my students knew their multiplication facts by Christmas of 3rd grade. They never said that. They're great teachers, and they said, they more often said, I really strive to inspire my students to be challenging, creative thinkers. And, we judge teachers by whether they have students who can do their multiplication by December, and that's just crazy. But, that's sort of the way we are. I missed the Walk for Education last Saturday because I was at the CSBA Board of Directors meeting. And I'll just share a few things that they talked about. In the new year and with the new assembly and the new legislature, there will be an all-out effort to get a repeal on the cap on reserves. After all, if it's okay for the state to have a rainy day fund, it ought to be okay for districts to have a rainy day fund. That's the thought. And after all, we really only have to convince one person, and that's the governor, because he has influence throughout the legislature, I imagine. And, originally I thought that it was only the small districts that had what has been deemed excessive reserves because, if the roof leaks, they need to save more money to fix the roof. Or if they suddenly were to get a special ed student who needed a non-public school placement, it would really affect a district of 1,000 or fewer students in a way that it doesn't affect us, if you think about the numbers. And so I said this out loud, and Jill Wins from San Francisco said, oh, no. We had a 10% reserve, and that's how we got through the crisis. So it's not just the small districts that are wisely retaining money. It's everybody. And, I've suggested before that we have some sort of a board soul search involving the community to see as we recover how much should we have in reserves? How much should we put into special programs? How much should we, I don't want to say share with our staff, but, they should be part of a return to normalcy too. One of the speakers that we had at the Board of Directors meeting was the Executive Director of the California Interscholastic Federation, which is the athletic organization for high school athletics in California. And he remarked that we should somehow let our communities know that athletics is an adjunct to our educational program, but that it is a very valuable adjunct. He pointed out that for athletes, grades are higher, dropouts lower, attendance is greater compared to the rest of the student body. And I don't know if we do this in our LCAP numbers, if we report the breakdown that way, but we could think about it. But he also suggested, and I would like to propose, that at the meeting where we appoint our representatives to CIF, to the North Coast sectional to which we belong, that we have some sort of a board discussion about the place of athletics in our program and present our numbers about attendance and graduation and such, just to show the community that it is a valuable adjunct to our education program, and perhaps have a little bit of a discussion about what our philosophy is about athletics and its importance to our students.
All right, thank you very much, Ms.
PowerPoint, which I will share with staff as they're thinking about such things.
Okay, thank you very much. And Mr. Rogi?
Yes, I attended the WASC at LHS, and I thought it was very well attended. The staff was very, and faculty were there to support at a reception to the visiting WASC team. The WASC team seemed to be very appreciative, and I think it went successful as far as I heard. Was also attended the walkathon. Great weather for a walk. Great crowd. Most of the people stayed there until the noon whistle. And I want to thank all that attended. I did get lapped by Dr. Dunlap about 18 times, but that's because I was sitting in the stands. I also want to report out, had a SELPA meeting on the 22nd. Budget was on track and approved by the board. Informational discussions about clinical services was given. Proposed goals for TV SELPA for the 14-15 year were discussed and approved, but added to the goals are the recruitment of a new SELPA director, as Kent is retiring at the end of 2015 educational year, and as is his executive secretary. This discussions also involved defining SELPA in the future to help deciding the needs of the director's time. And there is to be a timeline established for all input and job descriptions, and hiring a new director to enhance transition and continuity. I'd also like to say I agree with Mrs. White on the CIF and the athletics. I would think it would be nice if we had a report once a year on athletics in our district. The costs, the motivations, the successes, the failures, and where we want to be able to go. So I think that would be prudent and something we should be looking at. Right. To understand what CIF is doing, what's going on with EBAL, things like that. That would be important for this board. And this is out of the norm, but I would like to wish my dad a happy 96th birthday today.
That is not out of norm. That's perfectly appropriate.
That's it.
So, yeah, I agree, Mrs. White. It would be nice if we all made it that far. Dr. Dunlop. Yeah.
Not bright enough. There we go. It's on light green and dark greens. I didn't meet that. But anyway, I was also at the Walk for Education, and I chose not to walk. I decided I was going to run. So I ran for an hour, and I didn't I get 19 laps on you?
I did
Chuck,
walk one.
right,
I did walk one.
But anyway, it turned out very well. And I remember last year I also ran most of the time, but there were not nearly as many people left on the track. This time there were people all over the track still at 11 o'clock when I finally collapsed. But I was really impressed with what the activity and the booths. I went by the Painting Your Face booth the number of times the line was out to the track, and I didn't have time to wait for them to do that. And so I would run another lap, and it was still the same situation. It just didn't go away. But anyway, I think the whole thing was very successful. I'm looking forward to the financial report from that, because that's been a very helpful fundraiser for us for a number of years. Also, Math Counts is pretty much underway all throughout the district in the middle schools. And the group at Mendenhall went to the trouble to put up a district-wide Math Counts website. So you can go on to that, and you may be able to, I don't know if you can access it through the district office, but you probably go to Mendenhall web school site and you can access it. And basically you can find out who the people are at each school who are helping support, do the Math Counts thing, and it keeps people updated on what the problem sets are and what's happening at each of the schools. So you might want to explore that in your spare time, if you have any. I also went to the WASC reception, and I was impressed with two things. One, the group of people that came to review, I thought were really good folks, and I was really pleased to meet them, and also the staff that was going to work with them during the period they're there. And so I think that turned out well. Do I have any nods from the back? Oh, good. So that went very well. While we're considering following the sports so carefully, because we do know that that helps with school attendance and keeps kids doing it, I would also like to follow what we do in the music, arts, and areas, because, again, that's something where we probably have a big gain. We don't understand why we're doing so well, but I think we ought to look at, again, how students benefit from their participation in music, dance, and the arts. And I think that would be another thing for us to keep track of. If it really is making a difference, then we ought to make sure we enhance it in ways to get the most we can out of it. And so I'd like to propose that. And with that, I'm done.
Thank you, Dr. Dunlop. That's quite a lot. And I want to say, too, that I was privileged to attend the Walk for Education, although I didn't stay very long because I have difficulty walking very far, and my husband and I had another event to go to, rehabbing picnic tables over at Rincon Park. And, anything with a power tool is really enticing to me. So I got to drill a lot of boards, and it made me very happy. But I want to point out that Dr. Dunlop's too modest to say it, but Dr. Dunlop was the founding president of the Livermore Valley Education Foundation, for whom the Walk of Education was. And it's been really a great thing for this community, raised a tremendous amount of money. It's evolved over the years. I think the original fundraiser was a golf tournament. And then we've had different campaigns over the years, and I'm sorry?
They sold wrapping paper.
Wrapping paper. I don't think I participated.
When we started, it was really nickels and dimes, but the first big thing we did was auction off a car that was prepared by the
Cotterolis.
Yes, the Cotteroli Ford, and it was a Mustang. And so we auctioned that off, and that raised us $50,000 to really get underway. It was, but that was our big first effort.
Plus, it was real money back then.
Well, and I just think it's great how this community just steps up. You know, people do things in their own way, things that they know how to do, but there are people who are willing to contribute with the talents and skills that they have and their resources. And we just can't thank the community enough for that. And I'm going to turn it over to the superintendent for her report.
So I just would like to confirm that our staff would like to present some data and facts about our athletics programs and things like that. I think it's time to revisit that. And also, the question of the arts, it was just recently came up, Mrs. Cindy Alba and we attended a meeting with Christine Wente and the Wente Foundation for the Arts. And what's unique about this collaboration that she's forming is a network where it involves our foundation, which is a strong supporter of the arts, as well as the foundation and the superintendent or assistant superintendent representative from San Ramon School District, Pleasanton, and Dublin. So we all get together, and this is our second meeting, and we have a lot of incredible ideas of how we can share resources and do things on maybe a grander scale, and also learn from each other what works and what doesn't, and replicate different programs rather than everybody working in silos, similar to how we've tackled other areas successfully, such as ROP, Career Tech, and even SELPA and our teacher induction program. But one of the things that came from this most recent meeting is we can't really get to the ideas until we see where we are. So we actually have this task before us already. Each district, what we're trying to identify is what we do have, because we've all gone through cuts. So what is left? What is incredible? Where would we like to be as well? But where are there gaps? And so I think it'll be educational. What we would also share with you that is not only what we have to offer in the arts, but what other of our neighboring districts are offering, and how then we can augment what we do and combine resources so that all the students benefit, even in the region, as well as, of course, in Livermore. So I think that's kind of a unique timing. We're all looking at the same exact thing. And I will say that some of our neighbors were very impressed with the fact that our partial tax has always supported the arts, because not everybody has that focus or even a partial tax with that focus from the community. So I am also pleased to announce some things about our facilities, and we do know that we have a lot of unmet facilities needs and a lot of ongoing maintenance, but we still received high ratings for our Maryland injunction visits. We had a Quality Education and Investment Act visitation, as well as Williams Settlement visits for our campuses, and they received exemplary ratings, which is a credit to the school. You even saw some of our custodians today from a different school, as well as to our maintenance grounds operation folks and all the staff who work to keep pride. And it also goes back to the citizenship piece that you were speaking of earlier, Dr. Dunlop, because our students actually are better caretakers and take pride in the school as part of their community service, or just their general upkeep, and being a good citizen is to take care of your environment. So I think we're seeing that play out in a lot of different ways. I also wanted to give a little shout out to Human Resources Department, Mrs. Yolanda Holmes and her department and staff. One of the things that came up in our workplace survey results was that some of our employees, they're all trying to balance different areas. They're so committed to the job, and it's very demanding in every element here. And many people also have multiple jobs or family needs and requirements and things, and we're all aging at different paces and all that. And so from those surveys, what we found is that our staff wanted Human Resources to provide some unique workshops. And so some of the ones that have been planned for this fall, October, November, December, are the power of positive thinking, stress management, and health and well-being. And so I'm very excited for staff to be able to go to attend those. It's voluntary, free of charge, but even if people can't attend, they're able to also get some of the handouts and some of the follow-up feedback from that, so that we can all work on being healthy together. One of the also exciting things, as with the Diane Russell's award for a teacher in the county, is we now have been approached by 2 other districts who want to come and visit our culinary academy at Del Val. And so I think that, I guess they say imitation is a great form of flattery, or something to that effect. And so it's very exciting. We have often had our other schools be model schools and dual immersion and IB, and people visiting for our Project Lead the Way program in biotech. But now Del Val, as a model continuation school, is also becoming a thematic school where others want to emulate. So I think that's very exciting. And so Diane Russell and our principal, Avila, they've all been very instrumental in making that happen, and they appreciate the board's support as well. Last week, Granada High School AP computer science teacher and the Project Lead the Way teacher, Carol Kennard, hosted the second annual App Inventor Showcase. So we talked a lot about students applying what they learn in real ways and using their innovation and creativity as well as their collaborative skills. So the students shared and demonstrated original apps. This is a very exciting focus for them. It's very relevant. And they also can teach adults, who usually are the ones who don't know, how to create their own apps. So this was the second annual one, but I guess there's such a high demand, they're going to be ongoing with some of these showcases. And so one of them was identifying how if you have a situation where you need help with something, how can you quickly get it? And so you can key in what it is that you need help with. You might need help with directions, you might need help with your math, you may need help with a cooking assignment, whatever it is, and so you can connect with others. So students are thinking of really creative ways to solve life problems, and that's very exciting. This Saturday, if you are out and about in the town, is the Downtown Art Walk, and our students' artistic talents, which you'll see some of them behind you here, they will be on display in the foyer and lobby of the Bankhead Theater. So that's always a really exciting time. Many of our teachers are there with the work from our students, and the students themselves have the opportunity to share their creativity with the entire community, and it's very exciting. And then I would also like to just thank our Parent Club Information Council. We do have a board election coming up in November, and our Parent Club Information Council last night held a forum here in this room. Many of us were here, and I really appreciate their efforts that they put into that. I guess many of them missed Monday Night Football and Giants were playing and all these things, but they gave it all up to be here because they know how important the work of the board is, and they do appreciate all the people who've come forward and would like to be part of our incredible team here. So that's exciting, and we want to make sure that we thank them. And just so that folks know, if you missed the forum, then it is videotaped and it's already on our district website, as well as there is a TV 30 forum for board candidates, and that is also on a live link to our district website. So you can relive it or enjoy it, whatever your pleasure is. And with that, I will conclude my report.
All right, so we're adjourned at 9:10. Thank you very much.